Hello, everyone, and welcome to this third part of the communication skills series that we are doing. And in this third part, we are going to talk about the 5 tips on how to improve our communication skills. And before we get into these 5 tips on how to improve our communication skills, let us go through and do a quick recap of part 1 and part 2. If you have not seen those videos, I have put the link for those 2 videos in the description so you can have a look at those videos as well. But here is a quick recap. In those 2 parts, we learned about what communication is, what do we mean by communication, the types of communications, verbal, non-verbal. We also talked about the process of communication, how it goes from the sender to the receiver. Then we spoke about the importance of communication skills, why communication skills are important in today's day and age. We talked about the barriers to effective communication. We spoke about 7 barriers, which are physical, technological, cultural, emotional, perception barriers, cognitive barriers, and of course, linguistic barriers as well. So, now to the tips on improving our communication skills. So, these are very, very simple, practical tips that you can apply in your day-to-day life, in your everyday life, and see the improvement that happens in your communication skills immediately. So first and foremost, remember that communication, speaking, is only 50%. Listening is the other half of communication. So when we want to communicate, the first step, the first thing, the first tip to improving our communication skills is to listen actively. Know when to talk, and more importantly, you should know when to listen. And when you are listening, it is important to give your complete and undivided attention to the speaker. Keep your mobile phones, your distractions away in your pockets, in your bags, in your purses, and pay complete and 100% undivided attention to the person who is speaking. Another part of listening is not just nodding or saying but it is also about asking questions to check whether you have understood what the speaker is saying, as well as inspiring, motivating, encouraging the speaker to give you more information, to speak more about what the topic is. If you have uh, those big large group of friends or relatives in your family, out of that there is invariably one person, one relative, one friend that all of those people want to talk to. He is the most sought out after person when it comes to listening, when it comes to speaking to. And why is that person the most sought after person? Is because that person listens actively. He is able to give his or her undivided attention to the person speaking, as well as he is good at asking questions, not just simply nodding or saying yes, no, I understand, but also really good at asking questions. And one uh, tip that you can follow over here to listen actively is to practice what we call as whole body listening. Not just listening with your ears, but also listening with your heart, your mind, your entire body. In that sense, don't face away from the person when he or she is speaking. stand before that person, make eye contact, your feet should be pointing towards the person. You should not have any sort of barrier between you and that person uh, when he or she is speaking. So that is first tip. Listen actively. Second is be honest about your intentions, and most importantly, be honest about aligning your actions, your non-verbal communication with your verbal communication. Because if there is a mismatch at any point in time between your verbal and your non-verbal communication, if they don't align with each other, then there is a very good chance that you will be misunderstood. The message that you are trying to communicate verbally versus the message that you are communicating non-verbally will clash with each other, and there is a huge possibility that you will be misunderstood. So if you are one of those persons, who's complaining to others that, I am mostly misunderstood, people don't understand me, try checking if your verbal and non-verbal communication are in alignment with each other. And acknowledge mistakes. Whenever you have made a mistake, it is easy to find someone, find a situation on which you can put the blame. But it is extremely difficult to acknowledge your mistake. And as a leader, as a manager, as a supervisor, one of the key parts of being an effective manager, being an effective team leader, being an effective supervisor is when you are honest about your mistakes, when you are able to acknowledge your mistakes, your communication is much more credible. Be clear. The third tip is be clear when you are speaking. As far as possible, avoid use of any jargons, any technical terms, any tech talk as it is called. You should be able to put across your ideas in simple words. There should be no ambiguity in what you are saying versus what the person is understanding. And clarity is extremely important. Don't try to be clever when you are communicating, try to be clear. Define end results for managers, for supervisors. When you are communicating with your team, don't just say we need to optimize our processes. It is much easier to understand and clearer to understand when you define the end results. So we need to optimize our processes sounds vague, whereas if you say that we need to optimize our processes to reduce our wastage by 15%, that means you need to relook at your processes, or we need to redo our processes so that our wastage is reduced by 15%. So that is what I mean by being clear and defining end results and having no ambiguity in terms of your communication, what you're trying to say versus what the other person is trying to, or the other person is understanding. Be curious. Get the other person to speak as much as possible. Ask thought-provoking questions. One of the questions that we usually ask of others is, hi, how are you? I am fine, thank you. How about you? I am good too. Full stop, period. Beyond this, it is very difficult to take the conversation forward in a natural manner. So ask thought-provoking questions. What is the most interesting thing that you have learned in the last 1 week? What has intrigued you or impressed you the most about this conference that we are attending? Remember to ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are those questions which require an answer in detail. You just cannot answer an open-ended question with a yes or no. What do you think about the conference? Yes. Does this not sound odd when you ask an open-ended question and you get a yes or no answer? But when I ask a question, I don't expect the person to simply say yes, no, and keep quiet. What do you think about the conferences? Or you can be even more precise if you are attending a conference and there are a variety of speakers that are there. What do you think about XYZ's thoughts on this topic? That person now has to think and give you an answer. Tell me more about it. Another small phrase that you can put into a conversation which will improve the quality of the conversation is tell me more about XYZ ABC topic. And when all these things are said and done, when the speaker has spoken, you have listened, remember to paraphrase what the speaker has said. Paraphrasing and summarizing are a very, very important part of our communications because they help both the parties of the conversation to know that what was said was exactly what was understood and what was understood was exactly what was said. So remember to paraphrase the responses that you are getting from your speaker from time to time. It helps both of you to be aligned on the topic, to be aligned on the conversation that is happening, and at the same time you know that there are no what do you say disparities between the two of you. Very, very important point is to be empathizing with the person. Now, many people confuse empathy with sympathy, but these are two distinct feelings, these are two distinct emotions that uh, we have. So, understanding and acknowledging the feelings and emotions is the first step of empathizing with a person. We usually listen to respond, we don't listen to understand. And this has been said many times over that we should listen to understand and not listen to respond. So, listen to understand what the person is saying. Don't start uh, having responses made into your mind. Oh, he's going to say this, then I'm going to say that, then he'll say this, then I'm saying that, then he will say this, then I'm saying that. What happens is when you start framing responses to the statements that have not yet been made, you are disconnecting yourself from the conversation, you are taking yourself away from the conversation, and that is a cardinal sin that you can make, that anybody can make when we are in a conversation, when we are communicating with other people. Listen to understand, not just to respond. So how do you empathize with a person? The simple phrase that I would like to share here is, I can understand how you feel about. You can fill in the blanks about whatever it is that you are conversing about. If a person is being overly emotional, you don't have to get carried away in those emotions and start sharing your own stories and ideas and thoughts and opinions and emotions as well. A simple line, I can understand how you feel about, will help you build a bridge, a very strong bridge for that matter, between the speaker and you as a listener. And you should practice these empathy responses every time that you get. What I've done is I've created a sample list of 15 empathy responses, and it is also there in the description of this video. So you can go there, download it, and you can start practicing on those empathy responses with your friends, colleagues, family members, and see how the quality of your conversations improve. So that's the wrap up. Tip number one is listen actively to what the person is saying. Be honest about your communication, be honest about your intentions, and your verbal and non-verbal communication should be in alignment with one another. Be clear about what you are saying. Avoid any use of jargon unless it is absolutely required, or any technical terms unless they are absolutely required. Keep your communication simple. Use simple words, phrases to explain your point of view, your ideas, your opinions to the other person. Be curious what the other person is saying. Ask open ended questions. Use phrases, statements like tell me more about, and you will see automatically how the quality of your conversations starts improving. And last but not the least is be empathizing with the person who is speaking to you. Practice the empathy responses. Use the examples of empathy statements that you would have downloaded from the description below, and that should help you understand the difference between empathy and sympathy as well. So these are the 5 tips that we talked about in this video. And what I want you to do now is, I don't want you to close this video, switch off, and then add this to your playlist or somewhere else. I want you to write down 2 things out of those 5 tips that you have. What are the 2 things that you will do so that you can see an improvement in your communication? Make them smallest actionable part of your behavior. For example, you can say, I will start practicing empathy statements, or I will start paraphrasing, and then commit yourself to those paraphrasing and using of empathy statements. So what are the 2 things that you will do to improve your communication? That's the actionable part over here. Remember that communication is the key that unlocks most of your locks. So practice on becoming better at your communication and unlock your potentials and your future. So stay tuned for our next video, and if you have not liked, subscribed, or followed us here on YouTube, please do that. We are also on LinkedIn and Instagram as Elevate Edge Training Consultancy, and Elevate Edge _ training is on Instagram. If you would like to share your feedback with us, that's the email address that you can write to, elevateedge.training@outlook.com. Or if you have any ideas, any thoughts, any suggestions for me to make any videos for you, do feel free to write in. And until then, I'll see you. Bye bye.